Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the NBL1 Show, thanks to Coles Express. I'm Megan Hustwaite and we've got lots of action to wrap up with our experts, as usual, right around the country this week. But what about the headlines from the weekend's action? It's not every day that we have a 4-time Olympian, 3-time Olympic medalist and 2006 World Cup winner play in the NBL1, but that was the case in Central, where the great Laura Hodges has returned for her junior team Sturt. And then in NBL1 South, there was a rock star reception in Bendigo for one of their own. We're going to talk a bit more about both those stories shortly, so let's jump straight into it. Time to go west now, and when we do, we talk to the man in the know. Welcome, Greg Hire. Plenty happening in your part of the world.
Yeah, very exciting weekend we just had. I don't mind basketball midweek, so we had a game on the Wednesday, but some incredible results, some massive upsets, and some undefeated teams losing. So all in all, a fantastic round.
Let's head to the men's action first of all, because one of your teams has done a Collingwood. What does that actually mean?
Yeah, I'm not sure you should be saying that on a West Coast sort of podcast here, Meg, because we don't like the Magpies. But you're exactly right. The Joondalup Wolves did that, facing 2 fourth-quarter deficits. They had all the confidence in the world and ended up steamrolling both the East Perth Eagles on the Friday night and then doing that against the Goldfield Giants on Sunday. And it was inspired by the man, Quinton Dove. He's been in a revelation. He was signed in the off-season. He had a 33-point game against East Perth. He hit 2 massive back-to-back threes with about under 2 minutes left. And then they were inspired by their captain on Sunday against Goldfield Giants, with Jordan Wellsteed getting 15 rebounds with an additional 12 points. And that's massive for that group. You know, if they lost both those games, they've had a really inconsistent year. So for them to get that win, well, both wins for this round, will do them a world of good, because there's some question marks regarding Jonathan Wade, who's one of their other big marquee players, and he could be in doubt for the season.
The Tigers dominated the Redbacks, and there was plenty of storylines in this one. Can you tell me about them?
Yeah, well, Darnell Hoskins, who was their import signing this offseason, he erupted 20 points in the first quarter and really set the tone. And, Willetton, after their first round defeat against the Rockingham Flames, they're on a bit of a tear here, and that's obviously led by Gorjak Gak and Darnell Hoskins. But the third name, which might be a little bit of a surprise, not to a surprise to him, is Mark Worthington. And he had an incredible game. He shot 5 from 8 from the 3-point line, had 25 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. And very interesting, this group. I mean, they're, we know Worthington does not have lack confidence, and so they're on a roll. They got a veteran group, and we'll see what happens at this back half of the season.
Great basketball story, having Wortho back on court. That's a win for him and his team, the conference, the league, the fans, and the little kids watching a legend back doing what he loves most. Now, before we head over to the women's conference, some really tragic news in the basketball fraternity this week, Greg.
Yeah, you're right. It's really on a somber note. Vanessa Cooper lost her long battle with cancer, who was the husband of Andrew Cooper, who's the men's head coach for the Coburn Cougars, and really puts basketball in perspective. Realistically, week after week, I've sort of said the Cougars have been disappointing, haven't winning a game, and so I really want to acknowledge Andrew and Tani and Jesney, their children, because it really, puts on a more somber note, reflecting, she's an incredible woman, and they got a win this weekend, and I think that doesn't mean anything. When you lose, I'm not only an incredible person within our community, but you lose a loving wife and an incredible mother, and condolences to Andrew and his children and the Coburn Cougars fraternity.
We certainly echo your sentiments and send our sympathy to Andrew and his family and friends at this super sad time. Let's move on to the women's action now, because we've had our first really big upset of the season.
Yeah, and you would have not predicted it. The Redbacks on Friday night, Perth Redbacks, have not won a game all year, and they get absolutely humbled by Willetton Tigers, who are on a tear, by 47 points. And that set up a pretty significant challenge to then go down to Mandurah Magic, who we spoke about last week, are undefeated and been playing terrific basketball, but to get a win by 6 points, hopefully really sparked something within this group. And it was inspired by Brooke Malone, and she's not a household name. She returned back from junior college, or she's over there in the States doing that, and she had 23 points and 13 rebounds. She's a Rockingham Flames junior, so it's amazing what opportunity does. You'd be looking at Mandurah really, I guess, licking your wounds a little bit and going, did we drop one there? But incredible effort by the Redbacks. I love that. That's what you want in this league. You don't want expected results every single week. And to see the Redbacks get a win after getting humbled on Friday night shows, I guess, the strength of that group.
Elsewhere, it was a round where Rockingham responded.
Yeah, look, the blowtorch is on them, no pun intended with the Flames, but they've been very disappointing to start off the season, and they've got an incredible coaching staff, obviously led by Knowles, but Rob Beveridge, he's going to be the shadow lurking over that group because he's an incredible coach, one of not the best coaches in Australia that we have. But we saw the Flames go 2-0, and they were expected to win that. They needed to beat Lakeside Lightning. They did that, and then they, on Saturday night, went against the Goldfield Giants and won that. So now they sit at 3-3. Taya Burrows, sensational. She's going to be an interesting talking point of this offseason, whether she rejoins the WNBL and with the Perth Lynx or ventures over east, and she's doing herself wonders. She needs to have the ball in her hands a little bit more and play with that confidence. But credit to Taya, she's she played with plenty of energy and enthusiasm as what she's expected to do. But really pleasing to see her having a really dominating weekend.
She's a ripper, Taya Burrows. Huge improvements from her last WNBL season, so looking forward to her continued form in NBL1 West. And before we let you go, Greg, let's take a look at the round coming up because there's a massive weekend. We're getting into sort of pressure games and pressure phases of the season already for Joondalup.
Mate, I am rubbing my hands at this weekend. I know what I'm doing, and I'm going to be watching the Joondalup Wolves. They're going to go against the Willerton Tigers, led by Alex Sharp, and then they're going against Kirkburn Cougars, who are led by Sarah Mortensen. You want to talk about a test, that's it. You go 2-0, you're basically proving to the rest of the league, hey, we're the number one team. And, Robbie Ryan, Taj Morrell, Nashaya Parker-Williams, talk about a big three. That's one right there. They're better than Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, and Devin Booker. That's that three right there. So, look, an incredible weekend. We're going to see one of those teams who haven't lost a game really go up against it and lose their first. But I think more so will show where the Kirkburn Cougars are at. Tyrone Thwaites has recruited really well. That won't be their full outfit. Paddy Brosman will come in soon, who's over in Europe. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm going to be licking my lips at what some fantastic women's basketball ahead of us.
And I'm sure that trio won't mind the comparison, that's for sure. Can't wait for that massive weekend coming up for them. I'm with you, I'll be watching that very closely. Greg, thanks so much for your time today. Look forward to wrapping up more action with you next week.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you as always.
Time to talk NBL1 South now, and when we do, we go to Matt Hickey. Great to see you again, Matt. We'll start with the men's action because there was an absolute thriller take place.
Yeah, there certainly was. Bendigo versus Kilsyth. It's becoming a bit of a trend for the Cobras at the moment. They are playing in thriller after thriller. This time they sadly couldn't get the job done. It was Bendigo who came up winners. Scores were tied, and then Lat Mayen got fouled on a three-point shot, which I'm sure had coaches around the country and the state tearing their hair out if they've got any left. He missed the first one. He made the next two, which meant Bendigo managed to get over the line. And all the sweeter because Dyson Daniels was in attendance as well.
Wasn't that great to see? I love seeing the content across the weekend of him being back in his hometown, home stadium, and just the greeting that he received from the locals and the basketball community. It was so amazing to see.
It was fantastic. And imagine if, you happen to not know that he was going to be there and you're a young kid walking into that stadium and there's an NBA player there standing there waiting for you to come sign an autograph. It's pretty crazy.
That's where memories are made. Well, speaking of young guns, Owen Foxwell is one of those. He's been making waves in NBL1, and that was the case again at the weekend against Keilor.
Yeah, big game against Keilor for Owen Foxwell. 26 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, a bunch of steals. He shot over 70% from the field, and the biggest number of the lot, he had 0 turnovers. I think because we've seen him a little bit in the NBL system, we forget he's still only 19 years old. So what this kid is doing is sensational. And this is a Keilor team, although Eltham did win comfortably, that features Zach Triblett and Robbie Heath in the backcourt. Or potentially in the backcourt, 2 guys who have experience in the NBL system. So shout out to Owen Foxwell because that was a sensational performance.
Awesome to see. Now, the Pinots have had more injuries than any family deserves, so it's great to see Dane and Georgia back on court. But let's talk about Dane because he put up some big numbers at the weekend.
He did, and he has had a really torrid run with injury, so it was awesome to see Dane Pinot back firing. He had 22 points and 19 rebounds against Eltham on Saturday night, 11 of 14 from the field. 8 of those rebounds were offensive as well, and that was in a big win for the Sabres. They took home the victory 89-75. He's had some decent games so far in this NBL1 campaign, but this was the one that really shows that Dane Pinot is back, and I think it's going to be interesting if he can stay healthy to see how he goes across this season and then into the NBL season as well.
Yeah, for sure. And it just shows why NBL1 is so important in so many ways for different players and where they are at in their basketball path. Let's move on to the women's action now. We know Ringwood won the title last season and they've welcomed a new face who's made an immediate impact.
Yeah, she certainly has. Ariel Jones stepped in a massive game against Mount Gambier. The Pioneers were undefeated heading into this one, but Jones stepped in for the Hawks, 27 points and 6 rebounds on debut. She's only had a couple of days with the team before that game, and the Hawks ran out winners 87-77. So Ringwood wanted to get Marta Hamida back, who was obviously instrumental in their championship winning campaign last year. It didn't work out. They bring in Jones, and how great to see her just off the bench, 27 points on debut, and a sign of things to come because she probably still had a little bit of jet lag. She probably didn't know the system too well, but that 1-2 punch with Marina Whittle I think is going to be exciting.
We see it so often, don't we, where a player comes in, they might be fresh off a plane, haven't practiced yet, all these different little adversities that they're dealing with, and they often come in and pack a big punch. So that was a very exciting debut and a huge win for Ringwood. As we move on now to Beck Cole, she had an unbelievable WNBL final series for the Southside Flyers, and she continues to fly, but this time in the NBL1.
Yeah, fan favourite. I think everybody loves when Beck Cole is out on the floor, especially at NBL1 level. She had 23 points, 6 rebounds, 10 assists against Nuttawading, which is, of course, the club she played her junior basketball at. She shot over 50% from the field. It comes after 2 20-point games in the last round, so she's played 3 games this season. She's averaging over 20 points and averaging over 50% from the field. It's just awesome to see Beck Cole firing, one of the most entertaining players. We know what she can do at a 3x3 level, and we know what she can do at this level as well. So no doubt she's going to build into another really strong WNBL campaign when that rolls around.
And just loves playing with Carly Ernst, and we love seeing them team up together, whether it's in the Teal or for the Waverley Falcons. And finally, Matt, we know that the Super Cats have had a bit of a makeover. No Sarah Blitzarves for them this season, but they might have found one. Tell us a bit about her.
Yeah. Ala Tafayano, what a performance. It was in a game where they actually lost to Frankston. We know that how strong Frankston can be, but she pulled in 25 rebounds to go along with 22 points. 13 of those rebounds were offensive, which is just a huge game despite going down by 13 to Frankston. It's a sensational performance. I mean, any 20-20 game is huge, but 13 offensive rebounds, that's massive. And if she didn't have the game that she had, that scoreline could have been a lot worse for Geelong. So Ala Tafayano, fantastic performance and one to watch going forward.
Huge defensive performance. You're one to watch too. Matt Hickey putting up some great performances since joining us on the NBL1 show. Thanks for your time. Always great to catch up, and we'll see you again next week. Always love heading up north to talk to John Guana, and he joins me now. Welcome, John. Another huge weekend.
Massive weekend. It was a fantastic weekend again in the NBL1 North, but what weekend isn't, right?
You're spot on. Never wrong, John. Let's start with the Pirates because they are one of our favourites, aren't they? Especially when we can bring puns into it. So take it away, John. Arr.
Are the Pirates really back? I would say yes. They picked up that first win last weekend, and then they went on the road in the tough doubleheader going into Rockhampton, picking up a win on Friday night, and it was a big one. They won 99-64, so that did it very comfortably. All 5 starters, plus a player off the bench, Cam Gordon, hit double figures. Ben Volkman had a huge double-double, 17 points, 11 rebounds. Kai Woodfall against his former team also had 17 points in that one. And then they travel down to Mackay, taking on the top of the table Meteors, and they go into Mackay and pick up that second win. So now that's 3 wins on the trot for the Pirates. 2 huge road wins. I know I said it last weekend about the teams coming down south, but that trip to central Queensland is always a difficult one. You're happy getting 1 win, coming away with 2 is huge for the Pirates. And the key to me in both of the wins, they got off to really good starts and they maintained the lead throughout 4 quarters. So if Pirates can get it off to a good start, we know that they have the talent across the 5, get some bench production, they're starting to roll. They've got 3 in a row.
They've had a huge couple of weeks, highlighted by that huge weekend. And look, John, there's no doubt we've been pumping them up and they've delivered. So that's great to see. Now, Kuat Noi is back in action. We've been looking forward to it. Tell us a bit about how the reigning MVP shaped up at the weekend.
Well, I saw Kuat last weekend. He was hoping to have played last weekend. I know he was itching to get back out on the court. He and Rip City feel like they have unfinished business after dropping the grand final last weekend. They finally got him back onto the court. Unfortunately for Rip City, they dropped a really tough game to the Northside Wizards. Rip trailed most of that game. Rip came back in the 4th quarter to tie it, but Andrew White hit a step-back jump shot with about 8 seconds left to give the Wizards the lead. The Rip City had a good look at the basket at the end. Brandon Wood got a jump shot off, fading away. It hit the side of the rim, and that was it. Kuat Noi, though, he brought the noise, as he always does. 34 points, 15 rebounds. He also had 5 assists in that one, but it wasn't enough for them to get the win over Wizards. Wizards looking really good as well. I got to give a shout-out to Andrew White III, 23 points, 11 rebounds, 4 of 6 from 3, and also Luol Deng. He had a great game in that one, 22 points and 6 rebounds. Big win for Wizards, but great to see Kuat Noi back in there. They also have a lot of talent, so it'll be really interesting to see how they reintegrate Kuat Noi and get the rest of that team continuing to deliver where they were when he was on the sidelines.
Big talent, big scorelines. We love to see it. Now, the Thunder struck at the weekend, and it was one of their big names that did so.
Big name, big game, big man. Majok Deng had a great game. They were our game of the week on Friday night, and Majok delivered big time in that one. 39 points, 11 rebounds. They won the game by 20-plus points. He did it all, really, in that game. And then he backed it up on Saturday with another big performance, 32 points, 9 rebounds. They actually were trailing that second game against North Gold Coast Seahawks. Thunder, though, came back and Majok had that huge weekend. He averaged over 30 points. I was really upset that they didn't keep him in the game on Friday night, so he could have got that 40-piece. He was well on his way. But over the weekend, he shot almost 58%, 46% from 3, and he got to the free throw line, which I think is a great advantage for him. He could certainly shoot the ball when he's putting the ball on the floor and getting to the rim. And shooting it from outside, he makes himself and that Thunder team really, really dangerous. So a team to definitely keep their eye on. And we've kind of been quiet about Logan, but they're going about their business. They're right up there at the top of the ladder at the moment.
I'm with you. It was party pooper staff benching him. Let the guy have the 40-piece. That's what we were cheering for at home.
That's right. Come on, Coach Can. Make sure you leave him on next time. I'm sure he will. He's watching. I know he is.
Let's head it over to the women's side of things now because we want to talk about Darwin.
We do want to talk about Darwin because they're undefeated. And guess what? We thought that maybe they might struggle leaving Darwin for the first time, but they didn't. And they picked up 2 huge road wins. We talked about it with the Pirates and the men just now, but the women's team, they traveled down to Cairns, got a very, very comfortable win on Friday night. And then they had to go to the reigning champion, Townsville, who coming off that 3-game sweep last weekend, they were playing with a lot of confidence. To go into Townsville after playing in Kansas the night before and win 66-63 on the road says a lot about this Darwin team. Erin Bowman was huge all weekend long. In the game against Kansas, she had 14 points, 12 rebounds, 9 assists. She also then backed it up with 16 points, 9 rebounds, and 7 assists. She's already got a triple-double. She nearly picked up another 2 in 2 huge games. And guess what? Darwin's undefeated. They're just a smidge behind the Northside Wizards in the standings, but they've proven now that they can leave Darwin and still pick up some tough road wins. So definitely a team to keep an eye on.
A defining weekend for Darwin. Let's return to Logan and this time talk about Michaela Can. She's a superwoman. She's a super player and she continues to show us why.
She really, really is. I mean, people forget that how talented Michaela Can is. You know, she is a championship-winning player. She has the professional experience that everyone is trying to get to. And she's a super mom also, because I talked to her after the game on Friday night. She had the kids running around with her. I said, oh, they want to come on TV, but they had already run off to shoot more baskets. But Michaela was shooting and hitting shots all weekend long. We had the game on Friday night against Red City. She was fantastic in that game. And then they had to travel down to North Gold Coast, much like the men. We just talked about it. But they were in for a real dogfight. Logan trailed a majority of that game. It came down to the very end. Michaela Can took over. She was scoreless at halftime. She finished with over 20 points. Logan went on a 27-7 fourth quarter run to pick up the 1-point win. And guess who hit the final points? Michaela Can at the free throw line. North Gold Coast did have a chance to tie it up and actually take the lead with a couple of free throws. They missed those 2 free throws at the end. They actually got 2 further chances after that, and they still couldn't put the nail in the coffin. So Logan, very lucky to pick up 2 wins, but again, they're positioning themselves pretty well. They'll get Michaela Roof back this weekend, hopefully, so they're in a good position as well. And Michaela Can, the captain, doing everything she can to keep the ship sailing in the right direction.
She's a dynamo, Michaela Can, and what's better than one Michaela too? Can't wait to see Ruth back in that side. Now, let's move on to the Spartans because they've welcomed back one of their favourites.
They sure have, and it's a really big piece for them. Jess McDowell-White made her season debut over the weekend for Spartans. They had a very tough game. I went to that game as well. They beat Gold Coast at home 86-80, and Jess was fantastic. You know, you look at the numbers, and Jess's numbers are never ever going to really jump out at you. She certainly has the capability to score, but where she's strongest is getting everyone involved. Her control over the game, she hasn't missed a beat. She's actually elevated her ball handling, her shooting, and her scoring abilities, in my opinion, since going over to college. She finished with 8 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists, but the way that she defended, the energy, the effort levels, and really making the rest of the team the threat is where I think is her real strong suit, and she showed that against Gold Coast. That game, Maddie Allen had 23 points, Nat Taylor had 21 points, and a lot of that is Jess McDowell-White getting the ball, getting everyone into positions, making either that early pass or just reading the floor beautifully, and her teammates knowing where to be, and she finds them every time. Very, very similar to her brother, Will McDowell-White. I think Jess has some amazing vision, and she can really, really create opportunities for anyone on the court. You just got to keep your eyes open and your hands up, and she'll find you.
What a family. They're so talented and so great to see Jess back in NBL1 North. Well, John, let's finish with triple-double watch because we were on it at the weekend.
We definitely were. I got to give a shout out to Allison Gorel from Ipswich. She had the triple-double, 16 points, 12 rebounds, 10 assists in a 92-69 win over Red City. You know, we've had a few already, so we've got to make sure that we're being consistent and giving everyone a shout out. Allison is a great player. I met her in the preseason. I actually was on the court with her in the preseason as well. She can shoot the ball. She can create. She's a really, really nice person, a great teammate, and I think she showed it this weekend against Red City with the triple-double. She's always a threat for a triple-double, very much like Erin Bowman with Darwin. So someone to keep an eye on, but got to give Allison a big shout-out.
Well, the sun is always shining in the Sunshine State, and it shines when you join me every week. Always a treat, John. Thanks for the chat. Enjoy the weekend action coming up, and can't wait to see you again next week.
I can't wait either. Thank you so much, Megan. We're sending our sunshine out to everyone.
We need it, especially down here in NBL1 South.
For sure.
Well, we're 7 rounds down in NBL1 East, so we head east now and talk to our expert Jacinta Govind. How did we get here, Jacinta? I can't believe we're 7 rounds done.
Yeah, and apparently it's the 1st of May today, and I am still trying to figure out what I did in March, so I'll probably asking the wrong person there, Megan.
Don't worry, I woke up this morning and thought something about Christmas, so I'm still in last year. Let's talk women's action to start today, because a teenager lit it up at the weekend. We always love to see young, exciting talent doing their thing. Tell me a bit about this one.
Yes, round 7 belonged to young Elizabeth Murphy from the Albury-Wodonga Bandits. She had a career-high 28 points this round, which included 8 from 10 three-pointers and an overall shooting percentage of 69%. So pretty impressive shooting from a 16-year-old. And, you know, after her performance, I had a quick chat to the Bandits assistant coach, Sammy Mack, and he says that Lizzie is a multi-talented, hardworking and very coachable kid. Now, she usually plays juniors for Victoria, given that she is in Wodonga. But me personally would love to see her in a New South Wales country jersey. So I'm very excited to see where she ends up in the years to come.
Yeah, I think definitely be claiming her as New South Wales in NBL1 East, that's for sure. Let's move on and chat about Manly, because they're in some top touch.
Yeah, absolutely. Manly women's team have now consistently showcased talent quite a lot in this NBL1 competition over the years, and especially when it was still Waratah. I think the main difference, though, being now they've got coach Nathan Kerwin at the helm, who had a lot of success in the past with the men's side and is obviously seeing that success now being transferred to the women's side. So in round 7, Manly Warringah, they're really swooping in on the competition, some could say, because now they've knocked off a very strong Sutherland Sharks, who did have Loz Nicholson return, unfortunately in some foul trouble, but Manly Warringah were able to get the win. And it all comes down to the Delaney sisters and the Henderson sisters and the ever-reliable Kim Hodge, with Felicity Henderson actually again flirting with a triple-double with 14 points, 5 rebounds and 5 assists. And now that they've taken out the likes of the Sharks, the Comets and North's Bears twice, I think we can say that they are strong favourites for the.
They're stacked, that's for sure. Now, there was lots of WNBL talent on show when the Falcons played the Comets.
Oh, certainly. Certainly lots of WNBL talent. So in one court, we had Nicole Munger suiting up for the Newcastle Falcons, and of course, Vanessa Panousis back for the Comets alongside Shyla Hill and Jada Crawshaw. But this game fell in favour of the Newcastle Falcons. A very convincing win at home as well, with 5 of the Newcastle Falcons players in double figures for points. And they did a good job on Panousis being able to limit her to only 16 points. Now, 16 points for a regular Joe like you and me would be outstanding. You know, we'd be going, patting ourselves on the back. But Panousis has been averaging, 30 plus. So Newcastle obviously did a good job there. And considering that the Comets started the season with a 6-0 winning streak, they now dropped to 5th place, whereas Newcastle cement themselves at 3rd.
16 is a PB for me by a long way, Jacinta. So, no, that was a very good job restricting Panousis. Let's move across to the men's action now, because there's been some movement on the ladder.
Yeah, certainly a lot of movement. And, speaking to some of our other friends and fans of the NBL1 East, this is why we love the East so much, because it's so unpredictable week to week. And certainly movements in the men's ladder with the Hills Hornets really starting to gel now, and they clinched an important win against the Maitland Mustangs. The likes of Sean Montague having 16 points, 10 rebounds and 3 assists as he continues to get quite comfortable with the NBL1 East, but the Mustangs just couldn't connect. They were only 15% from the three-point line and 32% from the free throw line. So that sees Hills, I think, now at 9th spot and Maitland at 10th. But the ladder continued to shake up, like you alluded, with the Inner West Bulls now top spot over the COE and the North Bears after they crushed the Central Coast Crusaders. So the big 3 for the Bulls being Morrow, Higgins Titcher and Chris Bryant, each scoring over 20 points in round 7 against the Crusaders. Blake Morrow also having his hand very close to a triple-double with 21 points, 7 rebounds, and 9 assists. And the Bulls on top spot now, and the Comets, I think, were once top spot, and now they have dropped down the ladder. But favorite quote from one of my favorite movies is, "If you mess with the Bulls, you'll get the horns, Megan." So I think bringing some fire to this NBL1 comp.
Oh, we can all take something out of that, Jacinta. Now, say it ain't so, another heartbreaker for Hornsby.
Oh, man, heartbreaker indeed. I mean, you've got to feel for this team. As a basketball fan, though, very entertaining game between the Hornsby Ku-ring-gai Spiders and the Bankstown Bruins. But yes, Hornsby lost their second game in a row by 1 point, this time in overtime against the Bruins. And to be honest, when I was writing notes for just the last quarter and the overtime period to see how it got to that 1 point game, there were so many lead changes and so many like dramatic incidents that kind of led to the 1 point win for the Bruins. I think where the momentum changed in this game was when Ben White unfortunately picked up an unsportsmanlike foul, really changed the momentum in favor of the Bruins. I'll let the fans review that call on the unsportsmanlike foul, but that saw Hayden Blankley score 2 easy free throws, then able to set him up for a jumper, and then it just kind of went a bit downhill from there. To be fair, the Hornsby Spiders were able to make a layup late in OT to make sure they got that 1 point lead back, but then the Bruins had the last laugh and the Spiders couldn't put up a decent shot in the last 11 seconds. So Bruins scored another win.
Cracker of a game in extra time. And finally, as we wrap up NBL1 East, Jacinta, the Canberra COE fixture at the weekend was postponed due to illness. What happened, and is everyone okay?
So I did try and do a bit more digging to see what was happening as to why the game was postponed, because as you know, it doesn't happen very often in NBL1. But based on the official press release, the only information we were provided was due to health and safety protocol. And, now it's 2023. We can all read between the lines and understand what that means. But it sounds like the COE squads were unable to fit a team to play against Canberra this round. So it will be postponed to the end of the season, or I think perhaps sometime in July before finals are due to start in August. But it just means we missed out on the Tui versus Tui matchup in the men's game, so we might just have to wait a little bit longer.
Oh, we are going to have to wait a bit longer for that one, but no doubt it will be worth it. Jacinta, thanks for your great work again. Enjoy the round coming up, and we look forward to catching up again next week.
Thanks, Megan. Have a good week.
Thank you. Time to head to South Australia now and catch up with our NBL1 Central expert, Tristan Prentice. Welcome, Tristan.
Thank you very much, Megan, and great to talk hoops. It's been a busy couple of weeks here in Adelaide. Let's talk about NBL1 Central.
Yes, absolutely. The action never stops, but it was great to see amongst the action at the weekend. 4-time Olympian, 3-time Olympic gold medalist, and 2006 World Cup champion Laura Hodges back on court.
Yeah, it's amazing. What has Lauren Jackson started over there at the Albury-Wodonga Bandits? Plenty of players coming out of retirement now from the WNBL to play in the local state league. And Laura Hodges took the court against the Central District Lions, where she had the 10 points in very few minutes, actually. Very efficient time for her out there on the court, but a really good way for her to get, I suppose, the fitness up and be able to get back out there on the floor. She's a champion player, as we know. She came in and did some minutes for Michaela Williams in some really good spots there out at the Den, and no doubt we're going to see her on the floor a little bit more in the future, Megan.
Yeah, it's awesome to see. Mum of two as well, the girls there watching their mum return to the court and the sport she loves so much. Let's move on and talk about Ali Wilson, because she's having a continued run of form and an amazing sort of 18 months, and it's continued with her home team in NBL1.
Yeah, it did. It all started on Anzac Day, of course, on the Tuesday just past. And Ali Wilson, of course, with the Bendigo Spirit in the WNBL last season, she had an amazing league season high of 48 points, 12 rebounds, and 3 assists and steals. Drained 7 triples to launch the Norwood Flames over the North Adelaide Rockets, 83-74, It was a highly explosive encounter because it was between the WNBL forces at Brooke Basham, who had 19 points and 8 rebounds, and Lauren Mansfield, who had 23 points in the second quarter only, but finished with 23 points for the game, 7 rebounds and 3 steals. And Shannon Thompson, of course, who saw a bit of WNBL time in the past as well, 11 points and 6 rebounds, an incredibly action-packed game. Ali Wilson with those 48 points. Did that also fouling out as well late in the game as well. So didn't play the full 40 minutes and still got 48 there, Megan.
That is incredible. She's just in such stunning form. It's great to see Ali Wilson enjoying her basketball and what's coming from that. Let's move on now and talk about West Adelaide and the Southern Tigers.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Bianca Stazanowski was white hot with Molly McKendrick in that last quarter for the Southern Tigers. She had 22 points with 4 triples, Bianca Stazanowski, the under-20s player for the South Australia team, along with, obviously, Anzac medalist Molly McKendrick. 25 points and 4 assists. She continues to put her name forward for the Halls medal this year. They were dynamic in the final quarter. They scored 26 of the Southern Tigers, 31 points in the final quarter in their side 68-80 win against the West Adelaide Bearcats at Port Adelaide. And a quick note also about the Southern Tigers is that they backed that up against the North Adelaide Rockets on Saturday with an 83-61 win over the Rockets. And that was led by, of course, Coach Matt Clark, who's an assistant coach at the Adelaide Lightning, to Nat Hurst. So who's going to know how to stop Brooke Basham and Mansfield better than Matty Clark, Megan?
Yes, spot on. And West Adelaide were able to bounce back, led by one of their superstars.
Yeah, absolutely. It was Jasmine Fijo that came back with a vengeance. She fired to bounce the Bearcats back after those streak of losses. And she went to work with a halftime buzzer beater. And along with that, 29 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists and 5 steals, breaking their 4-game slide in their 67-83 win over the Eastern Mavericks, who were highly competitive in that game, but just couldn't stick with the Bearcats.
And in a battle of the Villes, Forestville and Woodville, it went right down to the wire.
Yeah, it did, and it came down to the Warriors' Emily Winter outlasting the Eagles in the final frantic minutes with Nicole Franson. They had their 3rd win of the season, Woodville, if you couldn't believe it. They won 71-74 over the Forestville Eagles, who the Eagles have had a very strong stronghold over the top of the Woodville Warriors in recent seasons. And it was thanks to Winter with 23 points, 9 rebounds and 5 assists, and Nicole Franson with 21 points and 14 rebound double-double that got them across the line. And be interesting to see what happens with the Woodville Warriors moving forward now, of course, with that win.
Absolutely. Let's take a look now at the men's action because a triple-double and a dub was on offer for DJ.
That's right, Megan. The Daniel Johnson, of course, had a fantastic game on Anzac Day. But not only that, the South Adelaide Panthers' response to their loss against the Forestville Eagles, they came out super confidently. They came out of the blocks with a 7-30 opening quarter in their 74-93 win at the Castle of St Clair in the grand final rematch of 2022. Daniel Johnson, as we mentioned, was the Anzac medalist, produced the 2nd triple-double of the season across both divisions with 17 points, 13 rebounds, and 10 assists, with Jared Hoppo 18 points and Andrew Hawkeye Barton on target again from deep with 5 triples in his 15 points.
Also in the men's action, the Sabres struck back.
Yeah, they certainly did. They struck back hard, but they had to overcome the strike back, of course, of James Legan, who we've mentioned in the league multiple times for the Eastern Mavericks as being a purveyor of points when it comes to the Eastern Mavericks and other teams. He managed to lock down 26 points with 7 triples and 8 rebounds to nearly steal it from the Sturt Sabres, but it was thanks to Jordan Forms, who nearly had a triple-double with 26 points and 12 rebounds and 8 assists. And Jacob Ragonley also had a handy return with 15 points and 15 rebounds that the Sturt Sabres were able to sneak across against the Eastern Mavericks.
And there was another game for the Sabres.
Yeah, that's right. They managed to back it up with 2 wins in a row, the Sturt Sabres. It was Forbes to the floor who produced a triple-double delight for the Sabres. He put together a triple-double of 18 points, 15 rebounds and 11 assists in his Sabres' massive win over the Central District Lions, 55-99 at the Den. Jacob Rigoni was also damaging with 27 points and 12 rebounds in his double-double. And just to mention that Brandon Jenkins continued his fantastic form with 23 points. But Unfortunately, missing Kevin Baker proved to be a tough task for the Lions as the Sabres picked up 2 in a row.
Yeah, that's for sure. And finally, some massive numbers put up by two big stars.
Some big numbers put up by Tasmanian Jack Jumper recruit Anthony Drimmick and Illawarra Hawks Lachlan Ulbrich. They were devastating for the Bearcats to lead them on a 0-16 run in the third quarter. And that helped the West Adelaide Bearcats run out over the top of the Eastern Mavericks, 91-117 at St Francis in Mount Barker. Drimmick grabbed 37 points with 6 triples, 12 rebounds, and 7 assists. And Lockie Ulbrich, 31 points and 12 rebounds. Mavericks skipper Jasper Rentoy recorded a career-high 29 points and 5 assists as well. And along with import Jack Hemphill, had 26 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists, and kept the Mavs in it for 3.5 quarters. It was a highly entertaining game on the KO Freebies, Megan, and we're looking forward to more action coming up soon on the NBL1 Central this coming weekend.
Yeah, there's some superb stat lines, massive numbers being put up by NBL1 Central players, a real theme so far this NBL1 season. Thanks for the wrap up, Tristan. Enjoy the action ahead this weekend, and we'll see you same time, same place next week.
No problem at all, Megan. Always a delight to talk hoops with you here on the NBL1 Show.